Hi guys, it's Erin from Ginger's Florals. Today I wanted to talk to you about Statice. I thought I'd walk through with you when I start them, how I start them, when I plant them out, the best time to harvest them, and then I do plan to also make a small wreath with the Statice that I just cut. So my last frost date is April 8th here in this Pacific Northwest zone 8B. So I start my seed in in February. It's part of one of my big seed starting weeks during the fall or the winter. And these guys, they'll take a little while to germinate, but once they do, they're really easy to take care of. They don't want to be overwatered. They don't want a whole lot of fertilizer. They just need to be they need the heat to be left alone, and they will start blooming, for me anyways, in the early part of July. So each one of these plants will put up between 15 and 20 stems. This, you can see, this is one stem with all of these flowers on the end of it. It's one of my favorite bouquet fillers. It does a really good job of caging around the outside of a bouquet, holding everything together. And they come in such a beautiful array of colors. This is part of a mix, an apricot mix. And I've got blue and pink and silvery white and white. There's an array of colors, and I haven't found one except for the bright yellow. I'm not a huge fan, but that's just me. It's a personal preference, really. But they have loads of beautiful colors. The blues and purples are probably my favorite, along with these apricot ones. Okay, so grow them on. They'll start to bloom in July. And once you get a good long couple stems, you want to look at You want to look at the florets and make sure that every one of them is open. If they're not all the way open, they will tend to wilt in a bouquet. It's kind of like a lot of the flowers in the middle of summer, your summer bloomers, heat lovers. They will, if they don't get all the way ripe, they tend to wilt. So this is definitely one of those. However, if you're planning to use it just as a dried flower, if you cut the stem and hang it upside down, it'll be just fine. It'll stiffen up in the direction that you want it to. It has less likely to flop over. So those are kind of the basics of Statice. It's one of my absolute favorite. I did grow another type this season called a rat tail Statice. It is so cool. I'll try to find a picture of it that I took. Long stems that kind of curve, and they're just huge and completely different from these. The one problem I had with those is that they only flushed out once, and then they just kind of were done, and they didn't do any more. These, on the other hand, these will bloom and just keep blooming all the way up until it starts to get cold, and then you have to deal with it. Then you have to make sure you cut them back. And they don't overwinter here. They're just an annual, but they are one of my favorites. So I thought I would also, as part of this video, walk you through how I make a wreath with Statice. I actually prefer to do this part while they're still green. If I wait until they're dried, they can get a little sharp and less pliable, and they'll break. They're a lot more fragile. So I try to do this as often as I can. If I'm going to do it at all, I will do this while they're still fresh, and they can just dry on the wreath form. Okay, so first things first, this is what I use. I prefer to use a wire wreath form. This is one of the ones I'll use later on in the season for like a Dusty Miller wreath, or just a big opulent one. For today's, I'm going to use this one. Can you see it? Make sure. This small one, it's a 8-inch, I think. This is 18-inch. So I use a wire form, and I use paddle wire. There's lots of ways to do this. You see the paddle wire, it's 20 gauge, 24 gauge. It's strong, but it's easy to bend. There's lots of ways to do this. You can use, if you want to be completely green all the way through, you can get a grapevine wreath or make a wreath out of vines, like ivy vines or something like that. You can use twine, you can use raffia, and if you have, like I said, that grapevine wreath or some other kind of natural wreath, the whole thing, when you're done with it, can just be pitched into the compost and you don't have to worry about it at all. Like I said, I prefer to use these, but it's completely up to you. So I'm gonna flip the camera around so you can see down on what I'm doing, and then we'll get the wreath going. Okay, like I said, I start with a wire wreath form and some paddle wire. You can get this at either of these at any craft store really, or you can buy them online. So I take the first bit of wire and I wrap it around, kind of weave it through, and then I will, whatever direction I'm gonna pull the wire, I will wrap it around a couple of times. Pull it tight, but not too tight. You can break these forms, just to secure it. It's not going to go anywhere. The next thing I do is grab a bunch of Statice. And I will make just a little bundle of them, of the flowers. And keep in mind that however big you make this bundle is going to be how big your wreath gets. So this one, I'm going to do just about like that. That way it'll be about that big all the way around. It'll still maintain a hole, though not a huge one. So lay this on here and then just wrap that wire around it a couple of times. Make sure it's tight, not so tight that you cut the flower, but make sure it's tight. And then I will cut the stems from here. And this is just setting right there, ready to go for the next piece. Then I'll grab another one. Another little bundle. You want to try and make them about the same size, though there is no hard and fast rule. You can do it however you want. As big or as small, as even or not, it's entirely up to you. So this is about the same size. And I'm going to set this one. So you see how this one went this way on the wreath form, it kind of goes this way. So this one I'm going to set facing the opposite way. And you really just want to lay it over top so that it covers what you just did. And then you do the exact same thing with the wire. Just get it around and pull it tight. Does that make sense? And then cut off what's left of the stems. And then you just do that all the way around. I'll show you one more. Since these are all part of a mix, all the colors should coordinate. So I'm not going to pay too much attention to which ones I'm doing where. I do sometimes cut off the big length because it gets in the way. Okay, I'm going to get this in the middle here. Hold tight. Okay, now this one went in. This one's going to go out again. As you can see, this one I put the stems so that the flowers sort of went in. This one we're going to go back out and do the exact same thing. All right. And then trim the ends. So now I'm just going to do that for the rest of these to get it all the way around, and then I'll show you what I do at the very end. Okay, now that we're down to the end and we just have this little bit in here, at this point, I will just tuck in a couple little bunches here and there. You just have to carefully weave the wire in and around all the other stems. So I'll do this one. The bunches just get smaller and it's a little more delicate. I'll show you how I do it on this one. You just kind of take a little extra care to make sure you're not smashing any other flowers. Do another one. This one we'll weave in here. That might be it. See, I have to kind of weave it in and around the other flowers so you don't smash them all. In and out. Okay, and then once you get here, I'll give myself a little more room. Cut it. This is the only time I cut it. And then weave this through, and then just weave it in and tie it off. I just find a spot. We're just about right where we started. Okay, now you can see here that I still have a little bit of a gap. I could continue putting some more little bundles in there, but for me, it's not really necessary. I'm gonna end up putting a bow right here so that it's something to hang it. I don't have any ribbon on me, but I'll get there in the next short amount of time. But overall, that's my wreath. What do you guys think? Okay, so I do want to caution you that you, like I said, you want to make it tight, but not so tight that you break everything. It is important that you wire it tight enough so that it really will hold, because as these flowers dry, they'll desiccate and then the stems will shrink and you have a chance of it falling apart. There's nothing that a little bit of a glue gun can't fix. But the other thing, obviously, about dried flowers, you want to take it inside somewhere that is going to be dry and warm and out of direct sunlight. This one will probably go on one of my guest room doors. Okay guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this. I hope maybe you learned something. Maybe you just like to play with dried flowers too. There's always a million different ways to do anything, so give it a try. If you don't like this way, try doing the all natural, try any way you want. But this is really fun. I really enjoy it. And I actually sell these at the farmer's market too. And I have customers that request them. I have a couple that have requested some Dusty Miller silver wreaths, which I absolutely adore. So yeah, I hope, like I said, I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you learned something about how to care for Statice or how to build a dried flower wreath. And if you like to hit the thumbs up, if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to consider it. And as always, leave a comment. I do try to answer all of them. Bye guys.